Hey, what's going on, good people? This is MC still with everybody's hip hop label. Good to have you here. This is the Boom Bap Chat. We got a great guest, a legendary producer in the house tonight. And, you know, more importantly, in just the world of being humans, we have a good person in the house tonight, which is really cool. Before we introduce him, I do want to say if you're in Cincinnati, or if you come visit, you know, with your mask on and all that, make sure you check out Everybody's Records over in Pleasant Hill. They got dope records, tapes, CDs, all that. So check that out, please. And if you can't make it over to Cincinnati, just go online to everybodysrecords.com and buy you some good music that way. So tonight on the show, I want to welcome, this is a legendary producer. This producer is responsible for some of my favorite songs, favorite beats. He's done beats for all kinds of artists. We're gonna get into all that, but please welcome to the Boom Bap Chat, the one and only SHAWN J Period.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Thank you for having me, man. Appreciate it, brothers.
Yeah, no doubt, man.
Yes.
Welcome, man. How are you tonight?
Doing well, man. Thank you, and definitely a pleasure to be with you all.
Great, man. It's great to have you, man. It's an honor. Also in the room, as always, we have Profound. Profound, how you doing, man?
Doing well, brother Till. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing okay. And behind the scenes, you can't see him, but he's always with us. We have Neville in the place. Neville, if you want to say what's up, you can.
Hey, people, live and direct.
Right on. Well, one thing we like to do in the Boom Bap Chat is show appreciation. And, you know, just want to give you your flowers in that, you know, as someone that like, you know, I loved hip hop music in the 90s. I love the music that's coming out now on the Boom Bap tip, but that's my favorite era. And I feel like, you know, you were there from the very beginning, you know, with your group days. But as hip hop kind of evolved in the 90s, I feel like some of it went kind of the, you know, the glossy, shiny, you know, puffy direction. And then there was this other set, this underground set, the raucous and all that. Like, and I feel like you were right in the middle of all of that. And just your sound, you had a unique sound, and you just had so many beats and so many songs that were just like, oh man, that's so dope. And I remember you were you were one of those producers for me when, if I went to the record store and I turned it over and I saw your name on the credits, I would buy the album. You know, there wasn't a lot of producers like that, but you were one of them. So I just want to, just show you some love, appreciate you for the incredible music you've made over the years. And then when I met you and you were down to earth and just real cool and humble, it was like, oh, this is even better. He's a cool dude too, makes great music, and he's a cool dude. Yeah. So salute to you.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Yeah, no doubt. And also on the show, we have IOMOS MARAD. IOMOS, how are you, man?
You're muted. Oh, yeah.
There he is.
There you go.
What's going on?
Oh, man.
What's good, IO?
What's up, brother?
Peace, Sean.
Hey, man.
Good to see you, man. So I want to start at the not at the beginning, but before you were SHAWN J Period, the producer. You were in a rap group rapping.
Right, correct.
Can you tell us a little bit about that group, how it came together and the name of it and all that?
Yeah, well, I still was actually SHAWN J Period in the group, right? But the group is called Down South. We're from Richmond, Virginia, and it was my cousin Jeremy and he was Soda Pop, I think name was in the group, and DJ Mayor. He actually lived in Virginia, but he was from New York. So we started the group in Virginia. We all were in college, you know, at that point. Well, high school, actually. I went to high school with the DJ, and then we formed a group. And eventually, through the relationships that Mayor had with Bobito, you know, the Stretch and Bobito show and stuff like that. But Bobito, they worked at Def Jam, doing interns and being interns and stuff. And that's how we actually got our exposure, because the demo he gave to Bobito, and then Stretch was A&R for Big Beat Atlantic. And then so through that relationship, we got signed. And we came to New York in 1992.
92. And when did you put out an album, right?
Yes. So the album came out. All right. So we came 92. The album came out, I think 3 years later, that's a whole other thing. You know what I mean? Timing. Maybe 94. I can't even remember that. It's like, but it took at least 2 years. I know that.
Yeah.
But the great thing about the album was Rob Reef Too Low, he became the A&R, and we were exposed to a lot of different producers. So from a production standpoint, I didn't come to New York to be a producer. I mean, production was just more a function of having something to rap over, but then we sat at, I mean, I was able to sit at the feet of like the Beat Nuts and, all of them, T-Ray, and all of these different folks. And it was like, I didn't realize it at the time, but just how much, they helped me, and then even to the point where I ended up buying Vic from the Beat Nuts, his SP. So that SP is what I ended up using for, a lot of like the Most Def stuff and, things. Cause I came to when we came to New York, came with the Insonic EPS 16 plus. So that's what I was, producing on initially. So it just was a great opportunity to, just meet a bunch of folks, in New York, and Stretch was big in the DJ scene. So we would go everywhere with them. So we just met so many people, through those relationships.
Yeah. So like looking back at it now, like, you talk about like the Beat Nuts and Mos Def, like I think I'd be somewhat starstruck, meeting these folks. But back then, before they were as big as they were, was there a feeling of like, oh, these are the guys, like these are, incredible artists, or did it feel more like you were all kind of in the same thing?
We just,
trying to make it.
They may be a little bit older, but I mean, obviously they were teaching us, so they did have, like a track record ahead of us, right? But it never really felt like you didn't feel enamored, like, oh man, now we may have felt enamored for, let's say, when Snoop would come to the East Coast, like, I mean, certain artists, you know what I mean? But from the production side, you had your producers, you had the premieres and the different things, but like the Beat Nuts, I wasn't exposed to them until we started working with them. Yeah. So I didn't have that. But then when I recognized, just the prolific work that they were doing, I'm like, oh gosh, man, you know what I mean? So I look back on it, and even when I talked to Juju, about a year ago now, because we did like some event and stuff like that, a little bit over a year actually, and it just was like the fact that the love is still there. Like you cannot talk to people for a while, but it really shows you don't always make friends in the business. You know what I mean? You make associates, like anything. You play volleyball and you're friends with them for the time. You're good, you know what I mean? But I was able to make some like really good friends and stuff that we could still pick up, and go from there. So it was awesome, man.
Who are some friends, from that era that you still keep up with today?
Elder Sensei, I talked to him the other day. You know what I mean? Talked to him a lot. High Tech, talked to him a couple of months ago. Like, different people. Matt Fingers, he ran Guess Wild Records.
Oh yeah.
Talked to him a lot. Really good friend. My friend Mac from the Aboriginal. Just, I mean, there's a bunch of folks, really, But I kind of you and I met when I had kind of pulled back, and we met when I was working in the church and stuff like that at the time, whatever. But that was when I counted like the backside of the desert moment. Like I was backside of Brooklyn. Like I kind of was in New York, but I was just married. I was over in another spot, and it was just like the one thing I look back on, and I actually do regret, is that I didn't actively pursue relationships with more people. Like we're good. Like I could see different people, even with Most and I, we're good. But like as he was, doing his trajectory, was going in a different place, with Black Star, because I did the Black Star stuff. But after that, that's when I, parted ways. I had stopped sampling, and we can kind of get into that stuff like that, how we, moved apart and stuff. But it was, Talib, I mean, all those guys, I talked to them. And it's just like, I look back on it, and I could have done a better job at just, picking up the phone more. But, you kind of get in your zone and, in your life, and it just, and IOMOS and I, we were talking yesterday, just sometimes, man, like your personality, you can, like, I love being around people, but I could be with myself and I'm good too. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And, but we can't let that be our default. You know what I mean? Because we weren't designed to be loners. You know what I mean? We're not even on this platform because we didn't design this. We didn't make these devices. Like, humans are designed to be interactive and communicate. You know what I mean? And that's just something that I look back on, and I could have done a better job. I did okay. You know what I mean? And fortunately be able to pick up relationships and, just show each other love and just appreciation. So
it sounds like you didn't, it's not that you did anything, you know, spiteful or mean spirited.
no,
it was just that you kind of pulled back a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
Is that right?
Definitely.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, when you don't, you know, burn bridges, you just withdraw a little bit. It seems like you can pick those back up, you know.
Yeah. And I'm able to pick back up with any of them, man. I didn't, you know, I don't see myself with any, you know, enemies per se, you know what I mean? So no, but it's all love. It's all love.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So the album that you did as a group, what happened after that album? Because that was the only album from that group, correct?
Yeah, the only album. Yeah,
okay.
we were signed. Album came out, Southern Comfort, single, video. So we were able to experience the whole get signed process, you know, with the deal, the advances, and the you know, whatever that is. And then we were dropped from the label. And I think all of us kind of went through micro depressions. Like it was just because it was weird. It was like because you entrust your, you know, it was the thing. It was like, get a deal. That was like the you know, the shiny gold object, you know what I mean? And when you go through and you recognize that it's a business for them, you know, and when they're signing, you know, 10 groups and they put the money behind it, but then you know, statistically, only really 2 of the groups are going to be, you know, breakout successes. And then the other 8 are really write-offs to 2, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they spend the money and you get some exposure, but it was definitely a learning experience. And I think that after that is really when I got into production, you know, and it is, and I remember like Rob and Stretchum, they were the ones who really said, hey, you need to think about this, right? You need to think about producing. And I'm like, no, I came to New York to be a rapper. You know what I'm saying? And but that advice, along with just watching my natural, you know, desire to grow as a producer, you know, that's what really brought me, you know, took me on that path.
Yeah, you said that there was some micro depression. Was producing what pulled you out of that? Was there something else that helped you overcome that phase?
I mean, I think that I would have to say yes, because it was, I mean, anytime someone experiences depression, it's just really, you know, it's the loss or the seeping out of hope. You know what I mean? Suicide is really someone just saying it's hopeless.
Right.
And nothing technically is hopeless. You know what I'm saying? So, but we did experience it because it was like we entrusted ourselves to this entity and they made a decision. I'm not even mad at the decision. We weren't selling as much or whatever. That's fine. But it, you know, disappointment never comes, you know, it's not based upon what you find. It's based upon what you expected to find. And we just expected differently. And we had to manage expectations, but the music definitely helped because it gave me something to pull me forward. You know what I mean? And the other guys got into sports and fashion. So each of us found our thing that pulled us forward. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
Yo, I really resonate with that idea of expectation. Like, man, that can mess you up, expectations. Before we move on to some production questions, IOMOS, Profan, y'all got anything?
I got production questions. So
okay. IOMOS, anything on your mind?
Nah, just listening. I can listen to Sean talk all day. So just like hearing them like share stories, I'm good for right now.
Okay, cool.
This is good.
Well, and you know, it's a fascinating thing when we talk about connections. One thing that happened in the time, I actually met a lot of people that I didn't know. Like IOMOS and I met on like MySpace when I was just trying to, you know, like I met a good amount of people. You know what I mean? Like got Sean Hunt. I met him on Facebook. I met Olo of the Beat Conductors, who I do a lot of events with beat battles and stuff on Facebook. You know, he messaged me, like, you know what I mean? So it's like, while I didn't keep up with relationships, maybe with other people I knew, but I met a lot of people that I hold dear as friends. You know what I mean? And, you know, so it's awesome, man. But anyway, just kind of pull back on what you said.
Yeah, no, it's good. So the question I had to enter into the production phase of the conversation, is if you could pick 3 defining beats, SHAWN J period beats that define your career, and you can translate that however you like, what 3 beats would those be? I got my 3 for you, but I want to know what your three are.
Yeah, I would say Artifacts, right? Because that was the song that I think as a producer, no, man, wow, that's hard actually.
We asked the hard questions.
Yeah, no, for sure. Because I have to think. All right, I'm going to go back because I'm gonna say the one that actually saved me from working at the post office because I literally had filled out the application. You know, my dad's a postal man, so it's like, you know, boy, you know, you up in New York, you know, you can't just be up in there, you know, and obviously they sending money, supporting you a little bit. They're man, you got to get a good job, man. I'm like, okay, so I had to follow that, but I'll have to say I'm gonna clump the Mad Skill, even though I did 3 songs for them. I'm gonna clump that into one only because that project is what financially, you know, helped me to actually, because if I didn't get that project, I may not have really grown as a producer because it stopped me from going to work at the post office, and you know, and it gave me a lane to really start walking in. So I'm gonna say the Mad Skill as a whole. Then I'll say Artifacts because I think the Artifact song was the song that it when it came out, you know, we just did it, you know what I mean? Obviously, you know, and I'll talk about that project. Well, man, I'll talk about it now. So that project was so it was profound for me because we were label mates, right? You know, with the Artifacts stuff on Big Beat. And, you know, they were having their successes with their first album and things like that. And then, you know, we ended up getting released from the label. But we still maintain, you know, friendships and stuff like that. And I always wanted to work with them, right? And so when they were working on the second album, you know, I did my tapes and I just kept going back. So when I would send it, they were like, oh, no, this is not it. It's not. But I was determined, you know what I mean? You know, the perseverance on it was like, and I kept coming back and they were like, no, that's not it. So, I mean, I submitted multiple times. That's why I ended up with 7 songs on the album because I became, you know, anything that's light in the room is just, it illuminates, but that same light can be harnessed into a laser and cut a diamond. And most people don't actually experience like success in life because they don't focus. You know what I mean? That's why multitasking, unless you're washing clothes or something and doing something is doing some other work for you. It really is. It doesn't give you the strength to really, you know, break through something. So I would say the Artifacts because that was the song that I fought for too. Because the A&R was like when Tane did the chorus and he was like, oh, I was like, that's it, that's the chorus, right? And the A&R he was like, no, man, what, like, and I'm like, that's brilliant, like the simplicity of it. You know what I mean? So that song, so that would be 2. And then I would have to say the Universal Magnetic single, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Because it was the thing that, you know, finally locked in with like an art, like I locked in with the Artifact. So that was good, right? But then locking in with Mos, and obviously he's super prolific in what he does. And I think he was a breath of fresh air at the time. And when I look back on it, you know, most producers, you know, they don't think about their success as tied to anyone else, right? But the fact remains that Raucous, when we talk about just Mos, but also to the movement of Raucous in that time, you know, our success really rode on a lot of those people who worked there, who decided to work those records and get those records heard and stuff like that. Yeah. So, you know, sometimes we end up not thinking like we did it. You know what I mean? But it's so many people behind that just said, we go celebrate these folks, and maybe for monetary reasons or just we like this project or whatever, you know, but we owe our successes to so many people. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I would say those are the 3. Long answer.
So no, that's great. So that last song, can you tell us the backstory? Because for the Universal Magnetic, because I feel like it includes a bird. And the song being the beat being denied by another group before. Sure. Yeah. Can you tell us that story?
So I was working with the Bush Baby. So Mr. Man, I mean, and as a person, actually, Mr. Man is probably, he's such an unsung hero in a lot of things because he was the one who introduced me to Mos, right? Because Mos did the intro outro on the Gravity. So that's how I actually met him. And then I found out years later that he actually introduced Talib and Mos. They were friends of his. Okay. So a lot of connective tissue comes through him. You know what I mean? So so they were finishing up the album, had had the 2 intro outro, and then 2 songs on there. So they were finishing up the album. We were at Battery Studios, Bob Power mixing, and we were just enjoying it, right? And met Dilla and all kinds of stuff. So
wow.
I was like, I said, okay, well, they wanted to come up with a single, and so I'm like, I went home that night, and it was this bird that in the morning I would always do my music like 4 or 5 in the morning. That's just was kind of my schedule, and this bird would always be outside the window, and I'm like, I'm gonna sample it. I always said I was gonna sample, put my mic out. So I put a mic out the window, recorded it, and because I'm always into sound design and just trying stuff. And so I put that in there and did the beat or whatever like that. And so it was the Bush Baby, so it was intended for them. But then when they rejected, it's like, good, but that's not the single. I think Paz ended up getting the single, the one that actually came out. Right. And then so then a couple of weeks later, Mr. Man brought Most to the house, and then we was listening through stuff, and he ended up picking that, and then the rest is history. We recorded it at Skeff Anselm's house. You know what I mean? And like it's you connecting all these things, man. And then the intro, I tell the story now, and at the time when you're trying to become a producer, your insecurities are there, right? So just as a person, as a young person. And so Most did the beginning, so the A, B, because anyone who knows him knows if he's around your equipment, he's going to be playing it. He'll go in. If you have an instrument around, he'll barely walk in and speak to you. He'll come over and like, I had some African instruments in the house and my road. He sit and play. I'm like, dude, we have to work, but that's just him. So he came in the studio and he just was the drum. I had my SP up and the drums were loaded and he was just banging around while we were talking, Skeff setting up and stuff. And then he was like, A, B, boy, he was rapping to it. And I'm like, all right, okay, we should do that, right? Wow. And so then he basically banged it out or recorded it, the length of it. And then from there, he went back and rapped over it. So it's the drums I had, but he just actually hand played them and recorded it. And then when he said, Shawn J, make the party people feel it. Well, and then the beat comes in, you know what I mean? That I did, you know what I mean?
That's interesting. I never knew that. So that was Most on the drums at the beginning.
Yeah.
Wow, that's super cool. I have so many more questions, but Profound, what you got?
Man, I'm stunned right now listening to this. But man, brother, like it's you're in a room full of MCs already, and you an MC yourself. So, as an MC producer, I just wanted to know: do you find, or do you feel like you have an advantage as a producer because you was an MC first?
Hold up, my daughter can hear me.
Oh, you're good. We welcome daughters into the show. Huh? It's all good. We love the daughters. We got about 15 daughters represented in this call right now.
Ask mommy.
Most thanks to Profound.
look, she I trained her though, because she in the beginning she would just come down and just see me. She'll be talking before she gets to me, and I'm like, I said, visually see me, and then but she saw me wave my hand. But I was like, all right, let me, she's in the negotiating this with me. She tried to negotiate.
Yes, we talked about that. It's funny because my daughter will come in, but she'll come in on the other, like she knows to come in on the other side of the room, and she'll like hand me little sheets of paper asking me questions.
Right. Sorry, that's so profound.
Yes, sir.
As you were asking the question, like I said, I was no longer laser focused on that. I was a broad light. And as I'm hearing her come down the step, I'm like,
right, we are all fathers. So my question was, man, since as an MC, do you feel like you have an advantage as a producer because you were an MC first?
For sure. And I think that particularly when it comes, not so much in the words that are said, but like cadence. Because I think as an MC, you have your own cadence, and then you have to adapt your cadence to whatever beat you're rapping to or whatever. And I think as a producer, it just teaches you, it really refines how you hear rhythm. Because, obviously we're talking about beats or whatever, and that's instruments, but the voice is I always said the voice is the final, if I'm doing a song with someone, the voice is the final instrument that I could never have access to until that person comes and does what they do. So even when in doing production, I stopped trying to finish beats. I would just do skeleton stuff and kind of get it in the ballpark. And then when the MC would come, you know, they do it. After that, I would finish the song after, because it's hard to say you're gonna finish the song without the MC. You know what I'm saying? Because you have to cater like the breaks to it and stuff like. So I think it just really teaches you, really teaches about understanding rhythm, and because a rap goes through so many changes. It's like a journey driving in a car. You know what I mean? So many landscapes in one, 3-minute section, you know? So yeah, great question though, but it definitely I think helps.
We had a production question from Facebook earlier in the week from Abron Tracks. He was asking about if you could share what instruments and equipment you were working with when you were making That's Them, or all the beats for That's Them by the Artifacts.
Okay. It was SP1200, and EP and Sonic EPS 16 Plus. So those were the main two, MIDI together.
What, and a follow up on that, was that the same instruments you were using for Body Rock and Action Guaranteed off the Lyricist Lounge joint?
Yes,
Okay.
the same, yeah.
That beat on, well, both of those beat, Body Rock and Action Guaranteed. But Action Guaranteed, I must have listened to that thing like 100 times when I first got that CD.
Yeah,
that beat is so. And OC and Razcat, were you around when they recorded that, or was it just?
I was.
What was that like?
That fascinating, but this is where it gets into my because I had just, like, right after with the Bush Baby experience and stuff. So I grew up in the church when I was younger, whatever, but never really committed, whatever. And then I became a devout Christian, right? Born again and stuff. And it started with the Bush Babies, right? So I'm like, born again Christian around all these Muslims, but they're fighting with each other. Some believe in this and that. And so I was kind of left. But then the went with the Action Guarantee. It's funny, the Action Guaranteed, obviously they were going for it. I mean, OC, particular Rascal, how they talk. And I remember being in the studio, I was struggling. And I'm like, because, I respect where people are. So it's not a pushy gospel, right? But it's like, I just remember I called my dad and I was like, man, like, I was young and I was like, just like, what do I do? And my dad said that in a room, he said, if a room is dark and you come in and just light a match, how much impact it has on the room. Whereas if the room is already lit, if the room is already lit, then it has an impact, right? So it really, that piece of advice just helped me to really settle down and just be in the moment with it. These are people. And while I may not be agreeing with everything they said, we're here making this body of work. I totally love these guys as people. You know what I mean? So it's like, it was some redemptive qualities to it. And I mean, to this day, like I see mainly more OC than Razcast, because I had just met him, but OC is total love, bro. Like, you know what I mean? And it just really taught me, it taught me a lot. And that song was important because you have to remember, it comes off the heels of, the issues with like East Coast, West Coast, things of that nature.
Right.
And you had an East Coast rapper and a West, and I think it was designed that way by, Lyricist Lounge, Anthony and Danny Castro and all those guys like that. So to have them on it, that I remember being in the studio, how important that was, that the fact that these guys are coming together doing the song, you know what I mean? And, they did a great job on it too. Yeah.
And I thought that was just the perfect pairing of MCs from the different coasts, because I feel like OC and Razcast in a lot of ways are, some of the greatest MCs around, but they're kind of unsung. They don't always get mentioned in those conversations, but they're both just so incredible lyrically. So that was just a great pairing. So they did their thing putting that together. So the unsettling that you were feeling in that room, was it based on the content?
Yeah, well, it had nothing to do with them as people, I mean,
go ahead.
No, that was it. That was all I was saying.
Yeah, so I would love to hear your thoughts on that now, because I struggle with this myself. Like there's hip hop music that I hear and I'm like, wow, like the beat and the way that they're flowing, the way that they're putting their words together. Like, this is incredible. This is a beautiful piece of art. And then I tune into what, you know, a rapper says sometimes, like, oh man, but that I don't resonate with that lyric at all.
Right.
You know, that seems kind of dark and not cool. So there's like this tension, you know, even today when I listen to some songs.
For sure.
Do you feel that today? And like, where are you in that tension today?
I mean, clearly that's going to be a tension. I think even with music, outside of music, I mean, you know, the political climate, whatever, just everyone having an opinion. And I think that, like, I had to really just grow and learn that, you know, while you could disagree with something, like, go in looking for the components that you do like, right?
Yeah.
That are generally considered good. Like, you could say, oh, I don't agree with what this person is saying, but I love his flow.
Yeah.
Like, most of the people, I love that flow. I don't agree with what they're saying.
Yeah.
And even people that I've worked with, I don't agree with everything, but I love the flow. Like, so I really learned to pick up the things that I liked about it. So, because if we go into things always picking, we can pick, man, there's no perfect person, and we could go and pick people apart. But if you go into the interaction, whether it be listening to music or whatever, pick out the things that you can celebrate about it, right? And then after that, you qualified yourself to be able to stand in judgment, so to speak, of like, oh, I don't like that, because you end up robbing yourself of experiences that you could have if you're constantly picking it apart. Now, certain things, if it's kind of overwhelming, you know, like certain stuff, like I'll listen to people. I usually just listen to people's albums one time just to kind of hear what they've done, particularly if it's a lot of cursing and stuff like that. Because, you know, I don't curse, you know, anymore. I haven't cursed in some years, except for when my daughters raised the word, and I have to kind of explain, you know what I mean? Like, you know, explain it. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Those are interesting moments. But you know, content, and a lot of people, let's say even the newer music, right? Like, we talking about trap music. Obviously, this is a boom bap thing, right? So we talking about trap, I mean, you have to think, man, like, we'll talk about trap and then kind of content. Like, the stuff that they're doing, man, is really pushing it forward, bro, because it's like they took the 808 and saturated it, like something that we would use back then. They just took it as and played it like a bass line, you know what I mean? But then the content may be fluffy, but look at the stuff that we grew up on. A lot of the stuff was fluffy, man. It wasn't, you know what I mean? It wasn't
for the money.
Like,
it's only for the money.
You know what I mean? You know?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think there's a great distinction to be made, you know, like you're talking about, like, you can find things to appreciate, you know, about almost anything. And to focus on that, I think, has the ability to bring people together. If you start there versus start at, oh, I don't like this part, and then, you know,
it just robs
how are you going to come together? Yeah, it robs you of experiences. Yeah.
And it's too much stress in your system, man, just to, like, you know, I mean, even with yourself, you have to, like, not be that way with yourself. You know what I mean? Like, because we're our worst critics, you know what I mean? And, you know, I'm guilty of that for sure, but it's like, you know, you just have to, you know, and you don't have to agree with everything. Like, I think sometimes we live in a time where it's like, if you don't agree at all, then you're just shunned, or like, oh, come on, man. Come on. It's too much diversity.
Right. You know? I appreciate that perspective for sure. I want to go back to production for a moment, because there's something I've always wanted to ask you. At some point, and you spoke on it very briefly earlier, at some point, your beats went, to my ears, it sounded like you were not sampling anymore.
Sure.
I was like, but it has a sample feel to it, but I don't think this is I think he played this or something.
Right.
Is that true? Was there a point where you stopped sampling, and why did you make that move?
It's true. Two reasons. I mean, it's definitely true. So I was going through, you know, when you come to you're sampling, like, and I have nothing wrong with sampling at all. Like, but I knew that as we were getting to know, okay, what to use, what not to use. And, you know, the sample clearance at the time, it was like, you're not dealing with the algorithms and things you're dealing with now that can pick out, a Shazam can pick out anything. Right. So you were taught to, you know, certain things. It was the myth. If you use 8 bars, or if you use this, don't have to click, like, whatever. Right. So we're taught this stuff. And in underground hip hop, we run a lot of risk. We just like, oh, it's not gonna be exposed, so we gonna use it, right? And two things. My lawyer came out of television, so at the time, television, it's like that's the most above ground you can be, right? Because it's aired all over the country, all over the world for anybody to see. So not even in a musical context, but like, you know, let's say if someone samples Bob James may not be listening to hip hop radio, college radio, whatever like that, but Bob James is watching a Ford commercial, right? Or watching a movie, and he hears his, you know, Nautilus in there or something like that. So in the context, she was like, yeah, Sean, you know, you should consider, you know, not using samples. So it kind of planted the seed. And then also too, as I was growing as a Christian, I knew what I was doing was, you know, I was purposely chopping this thing up, you know, trying to manipulate it. I knew I was stealing. Like I couldn't reconcile it. And I remember I read the scripture. It said, let him who stole steal no more, but let him work with his hands that he may have to give to those in need. And it just broke me, bro. Cause I was thinking like, if Quincy Jones, Summertime in the City, right? I have it on the record player. Quincy Jones, I'm in the studio. Quincy Jones walks in. What is the thing that I'm going to do? If I didn't plan to clear it, do whatever, all of a sudden it's going to produce a hiding in me, right? Where I would be like, oh, Quincy, oh, and tuck the record away. You know what I mean? So, and I realized that I didn't want the tension of like, you know, is someone going to hear this years later and then they'll get sued and just, I just didn't want that. You know what I mean? I wanted the freedom to be able to just do the music and let it be, right? Because any of the older artists, unless they, you know, pirated someone's songs or whatever, they don't experience that tension, you know? They just played the song, right? So it really was based around freedom. You know, freedom is the whole thing, you know what I mean? Because, and if I do, you know, choose a sample again, I would clear it. And that's freedom in that, because you're compensating another man for his work. So I just wasn't I was using too many bits and pieces, you know, to do stuff. And I'm like, I'm not gonna clear all that. A company wouldn't even dare clear 7 different pieces. You know what I'm saying? So, and I was already playing anyway, Rhodes in the house and stuff, creating sounds and stuff like that. So that's really what it was based around.
Wow. Profound. IOMOS, anything on your minds?
I'm still on this production. I'm just
let's go, man. Come on, brother.
Man. Okay, so do you find it hard until this is a question for you too, you too, because you produce as well.
Trying to.
Do y'all find it hard to write to your own production? Sean J, do you find it hard to write to your own production? I find it extremely hard because my ears as an MC go elsewhere when I'm writing, but my ears as a producer, like I can hear it better. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's weird, but I find myself like it's more difficult when I've made the track and I'm actually trying to write to it.
I mean, I'll pick it up lightly. I don't write as much anymore, but I know exactly what you're talking about, because it's not you were part of the inception of it, the process of coming, and it's almost like you don't get the experience of the elation of like, oh, when someone else plays you a beat, right? And you don't get the elation of, oh man, because you've already gone through that when you're creating it, right? So I think it is more difficult to write to your own stuff. You know what I mean? So I would agree.
Yeah, I've had the opposite experience in producing. Because when I make a beat, it's like I don't know. I know how to write to it because I made it, you know. And like I often will make a beat and be like, oh, I'm gonna write to this, you know. So I have often had the opposite. It's fascinating that both of you guys have a hard time writing to your own beat. That's interesting to me.
Yeah.
It's weird because I don't, as it like when I'm writing, when I'm in that mode of being an MC, like my ears want to hear a different producer than myself. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I mean, and I have tons of MCs. You got stuff, and shout out to Long Shot, everybody. It's BVAX, like they like a lot of my production they like. And I'd say to myself, they be like, man, you not using it? I'll be like, yeah, no. No, like I'll be glad to produce it for you, but I just find it extremely difficult.
Right.
Yeah. Different strokes,
Yeah.
IOMOS.
Yeah. I think one of the questions that we kind of talked about this last night, Sean, is like it got me to thinking how did you like develop your sound? Because remember we said last night, like Dilla had his own distinct sound. It's like when you hear Pete Rock beat, you know that's Pete Rock. When you hear Premier, you know that's Premier. And when you hear SHAWN J period beat, you knew that was SHAWN J because you all had your own distinctive sounds. So how did you develop your sound, and what would you say to like myself, who I consider myself still in the beginning stages of making beats? Like how would you mentor or counsel a young producer into developing their own sound? Like what advice would you give to somebody who wants to develop their own sound and their own style?
I mean, for me, it didn't start that way. I think, we all start imitating because we get exposed to something that, oh, we like that. And I mean, you see somebody with a gray, leather jacket. I love that. I want that. Like we start out imitating, right? So imitation is good because that actually gives you something to compare yourself against. And if you are honest with yourself, you can see like my stuff is not like his. And then but once you hit that level, at that point, you have to break off. You know what I mean? And you have to start really, once you get a certain skill level in the actual production, using the equipment, the DAW, whatever, start to really delve into your ideas, the uniqueness, like your fingerprint. Not one single person in all of history has the same fingerprint. How amazing is that, right?
Yeah.
So from that standpoint, you have to actually force yourself to. But it was easier back then because it was like, you have to remember, early hip hop came out, it was like the biter was the worst thing ever, right? Songs were done about it, right? So you come out of that mindset where it's like, it's not cool to be like anybody else, right? And then you listen to, the champions of the time. Pete Rock was not like Premier, was not like Lars Professor, not like Q-Tip. Like you hear your heroes not copying each other. They may pull from a jazz resource or whatever, but I think it was just the time was a lot easier, and just inherently you were really being told, without being told, find your place, right? And I think that the only time that people really start doing is when they feel like, okay, this is popular, and and it's not, look, I have no problem with someone, like you do commercials, they want you to do a specific thing. If you don't do it, you won't get the gig, right? So you have people out there who are just cranking out trap beats or whatever they're doing. I don't hate that because that's just a decision. And most of the times, the people who end up copying kind of the popular things are the ones who, we see on the yacht and whatever. And then, the people who trying to keep it real, end up, struggling, right? But in the process, I would say that be willing to find your own space, right? Your own fingerprint in your music, and like really pursue it. Like, what do you like? Not what someone else told you like, and then wait your turn. You know what I'm saying? Because you could be the one that has the groundbreaking sound that we all been waiting for. How do we know that?
Yeah.
If you don't, we as individuals don't at least honor ourselves to what we want, not what the general, group says, I like this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So who were when you first started out, who were the beat makers and producers you imitated until you developed your own?
I keep knocking stuff down. I would say, man, when I first started, I'm trying to think. I mean, it was like guys I probably didn't even know what, I like, say Mantronics and got, it was a producer from 3 Times Dope. I don't even know the producer's name, but it was like, like guys like that, like, and I was just figuring my way around the drum machine, and then I started listening. Let's say KRS-One. I really do. I remember it broke my heart when I remember dun, 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 dun. I'm like, oh man, they had a horn player come in and play it. Oh no, man! And then I was searching through a record and I heard it building. I'm like, Stanley Turrentine, I think. I'm like, oh man, like so. But that has. I'm not saying anything about the sampling thing, but it's just like it. The producers that I saw were like the early ones, like, really, like that's where I was starting to get it. But I met, my sound after the group, after the beat nuts, like got people I was interacting with, they were carving their own thing. So I think I was encouraged to do it. And I remember I met, I had through relationships with the Bush Babies, and then met Ali Shaheed and all these different things, right? So I had the tape. It's funny enough, the beat tape that has If You Hum You Can Hear, right?
Yeah.
On there. So that tape got into Q-Tip's hands, right? Through, I can't remember how, right? So I saw Q-Tip walking down the street on Broadway one day, and I'm like, and I saw him, I'm like, he just walking on his own, like, and I approached him, I was like, hey man, my name is Sean, whatever I said. And I said, yeah, I know that you heard my tape or something. And then he said, oh yeah, I like, and he said, cool. He said, but one thing you need to work on doing, like more up tempo stuff, or, whatever. So the thing is too, even after you quote unquote think that you have a sound, you still have to be willing to accept some responses, like, to see how you can refine yourself. You have your diamond, but it's facets to it, and I just would say find the sound. But if you don't want to make a sound for yourself and you want to do carbon copy stuff that will get you work on the Drake album, whatever, that's your decision, bro. Like, so you really have to decide what kind of producer you want to be. A hybrid, a totally unique guy with only an obscure group of fans, or pop, like,
I definitely would consider you a hybrid. You know what I mean? Like,
I like a lot of different music,
because you had your own unique style, and I always admired the warmth of your beats. Like, it was like you cooked them beats up with love, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just had that feel to it, like just you just saying a story about how Mos just came in and did that part. I never knew that part. That he was saying that because we talk about that. That was like my first introduction to you, was that song. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I have to give a lot of love to when you talk about the warmth. And thank you too, brother.
Yeah, no doubt.
From a a lot of times we're engineering that stuff now, but the unsung heroes, like Duro, who in Desert Storm, he did Jay-Z, Empire State. He did some crazy stuff. They were the one, like, we have the sounds, right? But they're the ones who in there really taking it to the next level. Bob Power took their beats to the next level. So a lot of times, that's why I say, even there's people who we get, because that name is on it. Oh gosh, this phone. My elbow gets to this phone. We get, our name is on it, but like their name too. But it's like that's the thing. I think that we just have to make sure, we talking about giving roses, give a lot of those folks the roses. And that's what I miss too about music now. It's like, I want to see credits, and maybe that's just because of our age or something like that. And most people just want to hear the song now, right? They don't care who really did it, except for the top line artist or the singer or something like that. But I would love to be able to, like, demark who did what, and be able to say, oh wow, he did that and he did that. Just like, even you asked the question about you thought I did something with Black Thought. Now, in the whole J period, SHAWN J period thing, right? So, and I respect, J period. We had a little thing early on when I started realizing it, because I thought it was like, oh man, it's coming, taking the name, and I hired my lawyer, And I'm like, cease and desist. And he was like, yeah, she said, he wants to talk to you. So I realized like he wasn't trying to take the brand, you know what I mean? And because that was right around the time I was pulling back, like when I met MC Till, right? So I was kind of away, and then he comes up, and then he's kind of working with the same general native tongue kind of group. So it just looks like I just did like mad skills and dropped the mad and became skills, like, you know what I mean? Because it was a trend. So so in the process of that, we came to an agreement, coexistence and stuff like that. And it is cool. And I respect, I mean, he is an amazing guy, what he does, his mixtapes and, and the beats and stuff. I mean, so I wasn't into like taking a man's work away from him.
Yeah.
Just 'cause, you know what I mean?
So was he always J period? Like, was that his?
I don't know.
thing?
I just know him. I just knew him as that. But I also know his name is Joel. So I'm like, all right, I can see where the J at least came from, right?
Right.
So, but I got the sense he knew who I was, but I didn't get the sense that it was like he was poaching on me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so from that standpoint, and he obviously was building his track record, and I'm like, dude, it's all love, bro. And then we just have to, we agree to clear it up when the subject comes up. You know what I mean? Because you don't need all. So
I wonder if it was advantageous to you. I mean, I wonder if your name got into more people's minds because of
maybe
J period.
Maybe the J period brand, may have expanded, and it may have kept the general J period thing alive. Oh, like I agree with you. I agree
because I am sure there are plenty of people out there. They're like, oh, SHAWN J period's back. Like he's doing his thing. Like this is SHAWN J period. And never even knew. Probably still don't know today, but now they know.
Yeah,
they're watching this.
So,
Yep. So you've worked with a lot of legendary artists. You mentioned Mos Def. What was it like working on the Black Star album?
Black Star. So obviously we were on Raucous, and at the time, and I get off. I think we did Body Rock. I see. I mean, I was in an interview and I mixed it up. So I'm sorry. We'll stick with this.
Good.
So Black Star was a project, I guess, that Raucous wanted to put them together, right? Talib and Mos. So, I remember Mos was in California working on some type of movie, commercial, something out there.
Mm-hmm.
So Raucous flew. So Mos was in California. Raucous flew. Talib and we flew from New York on Tower Air, which is a defunct airline. I think it was the remnant planes of Pan Am. It was just like one flight, one day going out and one flight back. You know what I mean? So, and we went out there, and then High Tech flew from Cincinnati to, they flew him out, to California from Cincinnati. So the four of us met in California, and then we started working on the Black Star album. And a friend of ours, Kendra Ross, her uncle had like a home studio somewhere in California. So we started there. Some of the songs made it, had to be re-recorded or whatever like that. But we were the original four because I was considered Mos producer. High Tech was considered Talib's producer. Yeah. And I was showing IOMOS last night. I said, if you look at the album cover, and this is credit to the Raucous folks, Tim Rowan and stuff like that, and the other folks who did the album cover. Like if you look at the album, Black Star album cover, it's Mos and then Talib, but down below it's a little drawing. You'll see a picture of me and myself and or High Tech and myself next to underneath them. Oh, wow. And I forgot about that until somebody went to the national the Black History Museum in DC, and someone, because I guess that cover is in the museum, like in a section, you're talking about popular art, music, or whatever like that. Yeah. And someone sent me the picture. I forgot about it, and they sent me, and I'm like, oh yes, that was there. So, but if you looked at, you can see it. Obviously, it's a drawing or whatever like that. Yeah. But
I never knew that.
I didn't know that either.
To me last night, I said, "Wow!" It blew my mind. Yeah. I was like, "That's been there all that time." I did not know that.
Yeah, man, and it was good though, because till we talking about Cincinnati, right? Yeah. So High Tech, I hadn't seen them in a while, and a producer that I work with, Kelsey, young guy, just made amazing producer. We went out to Cincinnati. I feel like it's like 2 years ago, maybe a little bit more, but it was a new Cincinnati Funk Fest was out there. Oh, so So Black Star was headlining, had High Tech, Erykah Badu, all this stuff. So I'm like, you know what? When have we ever gotten together in the same space, right? So I was like, okay, all three of them are going to be there, and I just need to get there. So talked to my wife. I was like, you know, I just want to go out there. So we flew out there, just flew out there for a day, really. Came right back the next day, but we went there. High Tech knew I was coming, but Most and Talib didn't know I was coming. So High Tech got us in, you know, got backstage and stuff. And I remember Most was in the green room, dressing room, whatever. And so, and I hadn't seen him in years, other than some random sightings in New York on the streets or something like that, right? And so when I walk in, it was like he was getting his hair cut, actually, you know, to cut his hair. And it was love, bro. It was like it was a moment, and we ended up taking a picture, the four of us, you know, like after the thing. It was good, man, because just to be the original four on the project, and you know, other people did stuff, Geology, a bunch of people, you know what I mean? J Raw, stuff like that. So it just was, it felt good, man. You know what I mean? And that's why I say, like, the relationships, you know, even though you don't talk to people as much, Talib I would see more than any of them, right? But it's just good to, you know, to reconnect with people. So
yeah, for sure. Another group that you worked with that we all love here is Smith and Wesson. And this is a really interesting question from our Facebook feed from Lex Pierre. He wants to know, did you feel any type of way when BCC reached out to you for production following their separation from the Beat Miners? Did you feel intimidated having to follow them?
Okay, so
or did you even think about it?
Their separation from the Beat Miners? That's what you said?
Yeah, that's the question. Following their separation from the Beat Miners, did they ever separate from the Beat Miners, or did they just not use the Beat Miners?
After myself, I don't know that.
I think that was more Helter Skelter.
I guess the question is, like, you know, they reach out to you for production, and you know the caliber of production they've had. I mean, the Beat Miners are iconic.
But the thing is,
did you feel any type of way?
The thing is, the Beat Miners actually got in there through them. So it wasn't.
Yeah, that's cool.
So really, it was but because we had a road manager, and I start giving her the props in the interview on Joey. She's out of Chicago too, right? So she was our road manager, and she was the one who introduced me to Mr. Man. So that was a connection, and then she also introduced me to the Beat Miners, right?
Oh wow.
So in that process, I would go over their house in Bushwick. Same guy, just sharpening and just, you know, like sitting at the feet of these guys. I mean, these guys are, you know, and learned a lot from, you know, E and Mr. Walt and stuff like that. But Baby Paul was I guess he was part of the Beat Miners too, right? So it wasn't just the two. It was like Baby Paul, maybe another guy, but at least Baby Paul. So Baby Paul had did La Fly Skorska, right? And so from that, Paul and I were connecting, right? So Paul was the one who really said, hey, check out Sean, you know what I mean? And then E and them were like, oh yeah, Sean, like, you know, so it was like the double entendre. It was like, hey, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then when I went up there, you know, Drew Ha, Buckshot, all of them did just a lot of love, man. You know what I mean? And that was it. So it was it definitely, to answer the question, I got in there through
them.
So it wasn't I don't know what happened after that, but you know what I mean? So
I love that beat, the beat that sets off that, well, they were Cocoa Brothers then over the lawsuit with the Smith and Wesson, but I love how they set that album off, and that's your beat right there. That's super dope. Yeah.
That's the one with
X-Clan, Professor X. Yeah. He's on there.
Yeah.
I love how they set that album off. And
that was fascinating, man.
Yeah.
That was a fascinating session with that. Yeah, because we with the keys, like that was one of those moments, man, where you're like, this is that guy. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know? So yeah, and then obviously the Helter Skelter thing, you know, I did a couple of things. Helter Skelter, Place to Be, you know, that was great working with them. Like, you know, just their presence, man. And I'm not a short guy, you know, 5'10", 11, but they're taller, right?
Yeah.
So and particularly Rock, it's like, and he just it's like their presence, man. It's like, you know, it's amazing, man. And then, you know, Yeah, so it was great. And then they had the offshoot groups with like Illinois when they did like the album. So that was I love that project too, you know.
You talking about Still for the People?
Yes, yeah. And it was I did a song for Illinois, you know.
Yeah, that's a dope song. I was listening to that earlier today.
That got me to, that was like kind of the one of those songs that the one thing they did, I was learning how to play bass right during that time. And they it's funny, man. I'm not a bass player in there, but just my nature of experimenting and sound design, trying to create stuff, would bring my bass in, man. I was sloppy with the string and but you know, I would loop it or take it and sample or whatever. And then and with the Illinois thing, with they go ooh, 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 ooh. So I was like my mouth. I did it and then I would
that was your mouth.
Ooh, 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 ooh. Yeah, definitely.
Oh wow.
I was just doing all kinds. I love doing all that stuff. So but
that remind me of the big brother in Beat Street who used to walk around with he always was recording sounds and things.
Yes,
like
that is true. Yes.
That's dope.
Yeah, man. I love that, man. You know, I love that. And I mean, I'll just use this to just mention the what I'm doing now too with the sound design. So, you know, launching my site, drumstacks.com. Like I've been working on it for a couple of years. And it's a labor of love, man. I've always been doing sounds. I mean, like the artifacts. I took the refrigerator grate to the studio and got Duro to put some effects on it, and recording the train ride, like Return to the Wrong Side. I recorded the train ride from Brooklyn to Manhattan, and it's underneath the song. You can hear, you know what I mean? So it's like I just love like organic stuff. Well, you know, whatever. But so that's something I'm really excited about now. And that's the main thing I'm doing. I'm not producing, I'm like providing sounds for producers, but then doing it's been over a couple of years, man. Like my lawyer and Ilmine, we share some of the same people and stuff like that. And you know, Ilmine is prolific in, you know, the sound design game, you know, one of the real originators that really made it popular, and was exposed to it. I was like, you know, I just wanted to do my own thing, really experiment, you know, stay like there's some amazing stuff out there, record collected, all kinds of stuff, right? But I wanted to do the same thing I'm talking about when you asked me about the bird, but like make it, you know, some people won't get that, right? But I wanted to do it where I could still experiment without having to get into like the sales. It has to be sales because it's a business. But I decided I was just, after the couple of years, just doing it like $39.99 just one time. You know what I mean? So yeah, go ahead.
No, you're good. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, just saying that, like, you know what I mean? It's just the one price, and then from that point, being able to you know, continue to experiment without having to keep saying, hey, like this, you know what I'm saying? And I think it works good for the people buying it, and it works for me because it gives me the freedom, you know, because that's my whole thing, man. Freedom. What's gonna give me mental freedom? What's gonna give me musical freedom? Sound freedom. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about how like what happened to get you to where you are now as far as doing the sound design. Because you said you're not doing as much production now, but you're doing this sound design. So what was that transition like, and why did you make that leap?
Yeah, I mean, the thing that, you know, oddly enough, it you know, having pulled back when I mentioned DJ Olo and the beat conductors down in the DMV area, when he contacted me to come down, he brought me down just to judge a beat battle. You know, I would hear about the Beat Society, you know, but I wasn't really in the scene, right? So when I got around producers, right, and it was just like, it was like a fish in water, bro. Like I like general musicians, but I love producers. It's like, you know what I mean? And so, and I just saw like, okay, wow, these guys are doing it. And it wasn't per se to sell a record or to do it. It was just like guys becoming brands themselves. You know what I mean? And it made me realize like how much I love them, and like, and how can I contribute? So I will contribute through advice, right? So it's really sound design and advice. And the thing is too, like, you know, giving the advice, but I realized like these guys, you know, just having something unique. So the beat battle, judging beat battles, I've done ice standards and all kinds of stuff, you know, Masters of the and being around the producers and seeing that this is the thing that they need, you know what I mean? Because me as a producer, even if I'm not producing, but I still buy stuff. Like I told you, man, I have stuff that I haven't even like messed with. It's like I think we're like raised to have an equipment sound addiction when we get started, man. It's like we buy stuff and it doesn't even necessarily make us money. You know what I'm saying? Like, but the sounds and stuff, producers will always need sounds. You know what I'm saying? It's just the nature of it. So that the beat battle scene is what got me really wanting to actually not just do sounds for myself, but do it for others, you know?
Yeah. That's neat. So you realized, you noticed that you had a love like for these producers and you wanted to find a way to serve these producers.
Yeah. And it started through advice, like, you know, like what we're doing now. It's just, you know, and I love this, like, you know, I mean, people try to monetize it, but I just love talking about, you know, just sharing what I know, because that's the one thing that we're missing. I think we get it. We talked about Clubhouse and, you know, people, you know, giving advice, and it's important, man, because I think that the reason why just even natural heritage of people and stuff like that is not passed around. We don't go talk to our grandparents enough. Like, it's history that we're missing out if someone doesn't share it, you know? And you're not going to pick up everything someone says. And fortunately, we have it documented through podcasts, you know, recordings and stuff like that.
Right.
But I just think that, you know, people, you saw that, you know, you're OG or something. And, you know, in the beginning, I was like, you don't want to feel like that, because you feel like someone's trying to send you out to pasture. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, come on, man. Like, you know, I still feel like a iceberg. I still got a lot below the water. You know what I mean? Ready to go. But you also have to know your lane too, man. It's like, I think I'll get back into production, and I think I'll probably have some of my better work, but I have to honor where my passion is. You know what I mean? And my passion is really not necessarily, you know, cooking up the whole beat, but like doing things that can inspire people, you know, whether it be through advice or through sounds, and hear what someone else does to, you know, like, like Profound was saying, like, sometimes when you're hearing your own stuff, you know what I'm saying? It's like, you just view it differently. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and you just want to hear what someone else's approach is, you know? And that's the thing that fuels me. Because I'm like, I didn't realize it was so many producers. I heard Illmind say on something, he said, there's at least 1 million producers in the world, something like that. And I really like did some basic calculation on the map. And I'm like, that is true. Because, you know, we were hindered by equipment before, when we talked about the SP and the EPS and stuff like that. Unless you had the money to buy it, or the ability to rent studio time, or go to your, you know, your man's house or something that has the equipment, you know, you were prohibited from making beats. Now people have laptops and DAWs and, you know, sounds and stuff like that, and controllers. Like, it fueled, and I think it's great. I mean, it's a lot of cream rises to the top. There's a lot of milk in the pool for sure, right? But cream, we all know that something, when we hear it, it's like, man, that, you know what I mean? But I love the fact that any and everybody could just pick up a DAW, and it's not about selling a record, bro. It's about expressing yourself. You know what I mean? Like, because live musicians play to express themselves. You know what I'm saying? They want to get paid from it, obviously, but it's not always necessarily go generate money. And it's still, should we not express ourselves musically on art because it doesn't generate money? You know what I'm saying? So that's it.
I feel that, man. We could talk to you for all night about your stories and everything going on. But we don't want to keep you here all night.
Right.
I do want to turn into this segment called One Word, but before I do that,
wait. I have to say, Profound. You said right. You thinking about that meal you cooked?
No. I said right because I actually I got some after behind the scenes questions and all of that. So I'm like, yeah, right, because I got some stuff I want to ask, because you didn't intrigue me.
Okay, no, I thought he was going for that
man, I hadn't even thought about it, man. It's gonna be ready, man. It's gonna be ready.
But before we go into the one word, I did just want to see if anyone in the room, Profound or IOMOS or Neville, if you had any last questions before we.
I know, just I never knew that you worked with Helter Skelter. So me being a big Sean Price fan, what was it like to be in a session with Sean? Because I know based off of interviews I've seen, I know he's funny, he cracks a lot of jokes, and he got like a huge presence. But what was it like for you to work with Sean P?
Yeah, their personalities are different, but Sean definitely is a jokester. Like the one thing about him, I think out of the group, he just naturally made me feel welcome. Like, you know what I mean? Like it was, and I think because we share the name Sean too, any Sean knows, like, you know, you get into spellings of Sean and stuff like that. But he, it just was all love. Even years later, you know, someone told me stories of him referencing me. You know, we had common friends and stuff like that. So it was like, he definitely was a welcomer, you know what I mean? And great voice, great, and that was really before he really locked into the Sean Price thing. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
He was just, you know, Ruck, you know, but I think he really came alive as he started to you know, unfold. You know what I mean? Like MF Doom, like, you know, when he was with what was the group that did Peach Fuzz? I can't remember the name. Candy. You know, but as they got out and they really started spreading their wings, and that's what we talk about, the fingerprint, right? Like you start off in a certain thing and then you kind of start to really blossom, you know what I mean? So but they're great guys though.
That's fresh. Profound, anything?
Oh no, man. I'm soaking it in, brother.
So I did want to ask you one final question. I know you've done other interviews before, and in all your interviews, is there anything that people never ask you about that you're like, man, I wish people would ask me about such and such?
Now look, you threw that on me. That's a hard one to answer. Okay, that's like that requires like going through calculating.
Or just anything about your life that you're like, man, you know, people don't know this about me, but I'd like them to know.
Yeah, gosh, man, you caught me out there with that.
I told you we asked the hard questions.
You caught me at that. That's a hard one, man. Because I mean, look, I try to be in the interview, like, dude, it's funny enough, man, dude. I actually was scared of speaking in public, bro. Like,
oh really?
Yeah, growing up, like, you know what I mean? It's just kind of the behind the scenes kid and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then I went to when I went to college, VCU in Richmond, I remember taking a public speaking class, you know what I mean? Just as an elective. And I remember the whole it was like, oh gosh, man, my stomach churning, and they teach you the whole thing. Look at the clock in the back of the room, or, you know, that the nonsense was that picture people naked and whatever the crazy. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, that didn't work, but it was just like, it really challenged me. It challenged me, but I think that in the interviews, like, this helps me to be real, because it gives me, you know, I'm not sitting around talking about like things I like or whatever, but it actually helped me to start expressing what I think, you know what I mean? And it's, I'm being interviewed, I'm talking about something by myself, but I'm trying to also say something that may impact someone else or help, like, you know what I mean? I use it as an opportunity to say maybe some things that I learned that are not music related. You know what I mean? You know, what I mentioned about the expectation thing and stuff, you know, my pastor said that, like, you know, just like things you learn, you know what I mean? And from business, you know, working in business and stuff like that. And it helps me, bro, because it just, like I said, my natural bent, I love being around people talking, but my natural bent is to be on my own, you know what I mean? And it could be a fault, you know, because you need people, you need these conversations, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I appreciate, I've noticed you drop little gems in there. You're talking about the light and cutting and the focus and all kinds of different little gems you've dropped in. So I appreciate that about you. It's not just all about how great I am. You know, you just come across very humble and you know, very kind person, very kind soul. So I appreciate that. Yeah.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, man. No doubt. So I did say we asked the tough questions here. This is probably going to be the hardest thing you've ever done in your life. I'm going to show you an album cover, and I'm going to, you know, say the name for the podcast viewers, and you just say the one word, first word that comes to your mind.
Can I do compound words?
You can do yes, compound words are allowed. And then if we need to talk about the album further, we can. All right.
Okay.
So here's the first one. And this one is a crowd favorite here. This one gets used a lot because we all love it. So it's the Low End Theory by Tribe Called Quest.
I'm gonna say one of the titles off of the album, The Business.
The Business.
So can I explain that?
Yeah, please do.
The Business.
So,
I love that song.
Me
The
too.
Business actually is funny enough. That song, when I talked about I came to New York to be a rapper, right?
Mm.
I heard the song before I came to New York. But when Diamond D was talking about talking about producing, and he was talking about make cheese about a couple of G's.
Right.
In my mind, I'm thinking like, I'm coming to New York to make success as a rapper.
Yeah,
I'm not thinking about making money as a producer. So I actually learned that production has value from that song.
Oh wow.
So The Business.
The Business. That's a great song. All right, next one. We're gonna fast forward to a whole different era. This is To Pimp a Butterfly by Kendrick Lamar.
Oh man. 4 words. It's a compound. It's a sentence. Breath of fresh air.
Yeah. Why? How so? Why that? Why those 4 words?
Because I mean, he took in light of all types of music coming out. He revisited really, I think, what a lot of us appreciated about coming out of the native tongue groups and stuff like that with the jazz and having like Kamasi Washington, I think, something like that, played throughout the whole thing. Like the conceptual nature of the album, it just was a brilliant masterpiece. And the album cover, like it just, but I just think it was like a breath of fresh air in the midst of everything that came out, and it was just well thought out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So a breath of fresh air compound. Yeah,
I remember someone we talked about this a long time ago. We had Kaz Meta on the show, and I remember a producer saying, even if you took Kendrick Lamar off the album and just listened to it musically, it's a phenomenal album.
I've never heard that album.
You got to hear it, man. It's really good.
Really? Are you serious?
I've never heard it. I'm being dead honest.
Well, you got your homework.
I've never heard that album.
Oh gosh,
I think you're in for a treat, Io.
All right.
Hey man, I have to. What? Have you heard of Kendrick Lamar?
Yeah, I've heard of him, but the only song that I've heard of Kendrick Lamar is what's the one song that I like? I can't think of it right now. But oh my god, I can't. It's on the first album, but it was like one of the singles. Like that's like
man.
I can listen to that song like 100 times, man. Like
you gotta be ashamed of yourself, man.
Hey,
I'm more in the cut than you are, man. And
I'm still listening to Body Rock, man. What can I say?
Look. I'm still listening. I'm gonna tell you now.
I'm still listening to Ultramagnetic. Come on, man.
Oh, man, no. You trying to like divert this thing and try to
No, I'm being honest. I'm being totally honest.
You have your homework, bro.
I do.
Gosh.
All right, here's the next one. See if you remember this one. This is Hip Hop Independence Day, Volume 1. Remember this one?
Oh, wait.
Do you remember?
I can't read it.
It's Hip Hop Independence Day, Volume 1. If you look on the back here, there's a SHAWN J Period signature.
Oh man!
You remember this joint? This was put up by Nervous Records, DJ Eclipse. You had a joint on here. What was the joint name? Let's see. Wisdom Life, Matt Fingertip, and SHAWN J, Fruits of Labor.
Okay,
I love that song. That song. You remember this joint?
Okay. One word. Now I remember. Like the cover, I just didn't recognize the cover.
Yeah, no, it's been a while too.
One word. Gosh. Transition.
Nice.
Because that's when I was like starting to that was after Most and all of this stuff, and it was like Wisdom Life was an artist that I was working with at the time, Matt Fingers and all this stuff, and it was just when I was starting to like try to figure out the sampling thing. I was just going through a lot. It was really trying to figure out what, am I rapping now? Am I still rapping? Am I producing? What kind of beats am I doing? Like, transition. But it was fun. That album was fun.
All
that
right,
song, like we did a couple of those versions, different ones. So.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff.
I really like that song. So this is this next round. For the next one, I'm gonna show you 2 albums, and I want you to tell us which one you like more. All right.
Okay.
Which
okay.
And there's been, it's kind of equal online. I think. Well, we'll get into it, but we've been talking about this album online for the last few days. So these two albums. So
Okay.
which one do you like more, Sound Bombing Part 1 or Part 2?
Oh my goodness.
So Sound Bombing 1, I think I was involved with, right? If I remember.
Yeah, that's got the Most Def, Talib,
right.
Universal
Interestingly
Magnetic.
enough, I'm probably gonna lean to 2 because that's the one with Oh No on it, right?
No, that was from Lyricist Lounge.
Oh, what am I thinking? Oh,
yeah.
All right, the sound. You know what? I don't necessarily know
Sound
enough
Bomber
about
had that Eminem joint on there, didn't it?
Many Men. Yeah.
Yeah, Many Men.
Yeah.
Many Men.
Yeah, I'm gonna say see, I don't know all the works on there like by heart. So I'm just gonna go with the album cover and say 2.
Hey, that is a dope album cover though.
That album cover is dope, bro.
So all right, last 2 we got Gravity by the Bush Babies.
Yeah. Trajectory.
Huh. Why so?
Because it literally changed my trajectory of, with that album meeting Khalil, I mean, through Joey, as I mentioned, introduction to Most, which in turn actually literally took, my career, which was going, but like it took it in a direction more north, I mean, it was, so it definitely, the relationships that came out of that, we're talking about today. I mean, I have a picture of this guy from that album. Wow. You know what I mean? I met him in the studio for the first time with doing that. You know what I mean? So that's what I say, trajectory.
Right on.
All
right.
That album right there is not talked about enough, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I got introduced to that album on the Humble. I was riding in the car with a friend of mine and he was listening to it. He's like, "You never heard of the Bush Baby?" And the next day I went and bought that. And I was like, wow, that album is phenomenal, man. Like from front to start to finish.
And the compliment they honor their island tradition, you know what I mean? And that's the beautiful thing. All of them were different. Like, you know what I mean? And to see them perform, I mean, they were just amazing, man. So
wow, I never saw them rock. So they're all West Indian. All 3 of them are West Indian.
Of this, I think Khalil Trinidadian, Lighty Jamaican, I'm assuming, right? And yeah, I think so. Lee, yeah, I think so. Wow. Lee may not be, you know what I mean, but I think so.
And you did a few joints on there, but one of my favorite beats of yours is Melting Plastic on that joint.
Oh man,
love that beat.
That song's so cool.
Yeah, it is.
I have to go back and listen. That's a beat I did. I have to go see. This is beautiful. I need to go back. Look, IOMOS, you need to do new homework. I need to do old homework.
Here you go. I got you before the Facebook police get us. This joint. Remember this?
Ooh, that song's so cold.
Can't hear it.
You don't hear it?
Oh yes. That's me singing in it.
So that's you singing?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. All right, we can't play too much right now. All right.
That's joint, dude.
All right, yeah, I love that joint.
I'm about to bang that tonight.
Last one is That's Them by the Artifacts.
Let me think. I said the word earlier when I was describing, but persistence, because how I persisted in to the point of getting to the number of songs that I got on there, and just the love, like how they didn't just shun me, like they knew me, but it was just like, all right, keep coming back, like they didn't settle for anything that they didn't want. You know what I mean? And also that album actually was starting to break out, do some experimental, like use more sound, just how it was programming and just, you know what I mean? So
man, I remember getting that, obviously they had their first album, but their single on this was The Ultimate. I think Baby Paul did it.
Right.
But anyway, I remember getting it off the strength of that song because I love that song. And I remember getting it and opening up the packaging, looking at inserts, and I saw SHAWN J Period all over it. I was like, oh man, this is gonna be a super dope album. I already know.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, man, for sure.
Yeah, it was great. A great album with them.
Yo, Till, that's it. No more, not the other album. No more albums.
That's it. Did you have one in mind? I mean, I can give you one more. If you want
not the what's up with the Talib Kweli and Mos?
I didn't have that. I didn't have that one.
Oh, okay.
hey,
Sorry, I didn't mean to put you. Sorry.
The Black Star.
But we can just say that one word comes to your mind when you think of Black Star.
Black Star.
Album.
What I am.
I would say prolific, you know, because it was just like them coming together, you know, obviously in the same wheelhouse per se, but to hear them together, like they made they by themselves is great. It's like, you know, a parent coming together, you know, and birthing a child. Like I always say, our children are our better selves. They look better than us, everything about us. You know what I'm saying? It's like you know it's true. You can see some parents, man, and their kids are just amazing looking. And look, us as parents, we look all crazy and stuff like that. It's like, man, how'd you birth that kid, man? Yeah. That's, you know, but I would say like what they birthed was you know, was amazing. So prolific, you know, their child lives to it. Look, but I would love to babysit the child, but now they passed it on to Mad Lib. So you know what I mean?
Wow, yeah.
But
that's
I mean, look,
interesting to me that they didn't go back to, because I see High Tech and now you, because I didn't even know that you did. I see you all as Black Star, a collective, not just Mos and Talib. So that's very interesting to me that they wouldn't.
But I think it's gonna be good. I think, and that's, I think that really, that's one thing with Mos. And I mean, people know him, know, like, you know, with Talib too. Talib works with all kinds of producers and stuff, but Mos for sure, like when he locks in on you, you're in him for the time. And then like he worked with Minnesota on one of the projects, you know, he locks in and then he move on, and you can't take it personal. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you know, you have to just like, okay, he wants to create another piece of art. You know what I mean? And so that's the thing. Like, I think that when what they come up with is going to be great. You know what I mean? Would love to be a part of it, because I'm not really producing now. I'm probably not feeling it as like, oh man, I'm not a part of it. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, but would love to be. Hey, I could pull some stuff out.
Was there an MC that you never got to work with that you were like, man, I wish I would have got to work with?
That's a great question.
Oh,
that's a great question.
An MC, man. See, I don't want to say like I mean, obviously some big artists and stuff like that. I mean, I'm gonna do this a big artist, but it's just, I love the kid. I'm gonna say Jay-Z, and not just because most people will want to work with Jay-Z, but because of just how he literally, almost like Kendrick, in the sense that he whatever beat he's rapping on, he's going to be that. And I heard he just mainly freestyles and stuff. Like, he doesn't even go in there, right? He just kind of, you know, maybe go through it and all right, say the part. You know, that's what I heard from it. But I would say him, not because he's popular, but just because I don't agree. Like I said, I don't agree with everything he says, but as an instrument, as a vocal instrument, you know what I mean? He's always going to deliver. You know what I mean? Even on songs that you know are like, beat wise, like, but he delivers cadence, and he just masterful at that, man. So you have to honor that, you know?
Yeah, for sure. So how do you like people to follow you online? Are you online, social media?
Yes. So I'm actually on Facebook and Instagram at Shawn SHAWN J Music.
Okay, cool.
And so those two, not on Twitter as much, but those two.
And
but
you mentioned
Instagram, I'm mainly on Instagram. I need to look. I need to get my Facebook game up. Like, I feel like I left my face. That started on Facebook, man, and then Instagram got me hooked, man. I was like, you know. So I was like, you know, but need to come back to my Facebook folks, man. Just, you know.
Hey, with you have a young child, you'll be on TikTok soon.
Oh man, look, they tried to get me. I thought about it, bro, and I'm like, it's just like, it's all work, bro. Like, gosh, man, just because when I'm on social media, man, and I started on Facebook, and the issue that I'm personally having is just I get so into it, and it just sucks my time, because I'm like, I treat it like people are really there. Like, so I want to interact with people. And then before long, I'm like, oh man. And I love interactions. I mean, that's how IOMOS and I met. we're interacting online, and then we take it offline, and I can't take it offline with everybody.
Right.
But it's like I'm interested in people, right, and what they're doing, and I find like it starts to distract me from things that I know I need to do. So I haven't been on Instagram in over a month. Now I don't know if it's good for my algorithm, but it's like, you know what I mean? It's just
it
like
might be
I'm
good for
trying
your
to focus.
soul. Yeah, right. And you said is it drumstacks.com spell everything spelled regular?
Yes, but yes, drumstacks with an S.
Yep. Okay, drumstacks.com.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, it's live, but I'm actually the first set of sounds I'm like finalizing, and then, you know, tidy up the site, and we're ready to rock. You know what I mean? So the site is there. We ran a contest the end of last year. We go, you know, it's gonna be fun, man. I'm enjoying it, bro. I'm just like, it's just fun for me to do it. You know what I mean? Because I've been doing it for myself, and it's just, you know, see what people do with it. So
right on. Well, before we get out of here, you know, we always have to do shout outs because it's not a hip hop show if we don't do shout outs. So we'll leave Shawn J. Your shout outs will be the final word of the night. So Profound, you got shout outs tonight?
Man, just a couple, man. Shout out Chicago, Bolingbrook, my Boom Bap Chat brothers, Till, Io, Neville, brother Shawn J Period. Honor to meet you tonight, man. Shout out to you as well. And man, you know, them six children of mine, man. Amir, Zakir, Ariel, Rosalina, Daima, and Elijah, man. And man, that's it, bro.
Right on. IOMOS, who you got tonight?
Man, shout out to my beautiful wife, my mom back home, my family in Chicago, my family in Detroit, my brother Dante, the Negro League, my brother Ron with What's the Irony, and my man Taiwan Davis from Culture 45, and my Boom Bap Chat brothers, you know what I'm saying? Just definitely, man, shout out. Sorry I was late. And just want to give my roses to my brother, man, Shawn J Period. Not only, it's always great for me when you a fan of somebody and then you meet them and they cool, you know what I'm saying? They just amazing people as well as amazing artists. So you're definitely that, and you just been a great brother, man. I value our brotherhood. I don't see you as a friend no more. I just see you as my brother.
Sure.
So
for sure.
I really appreciate the brotherhood and just the many conversations that we had. I learned so much from you, and I just value your input, man, into my life. You know what I mean? Because you knew me when I was single, and we had conversations about marriage.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? Now I'm married. It's like, it's amazing. So I appreciate you, man. I'm glad you was able to do this. You know what I mean?
You too, man. Thanks for the invite too, man. Appreciate
no
it.
doubt.
And to reconnect with MC Till, man.
Yeah,
all day.
Yeah, that was crazy when I met you, because I didn't know what you looked like. I only knew your work, and I was like, oh shoot, I'm talking to Shawn J Period. This is crazy. Man. And you're super cool then, super cool. Thank now. You, Neville, if you're still with us, Neville, behind the scenes, any shout outs that you want to give us?
Yeah, the Boom Bap Chat review. The Boom Bap. Yeah, everybody boom back. I'm really tired. But yeah, that's it, man. Peace and love to everybody.
Right on, man. And
coming through. Appreciate you.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Neville. And I just want to give a shout out to everyone that's been tuning in. We got a lot of people watching tonight. My man Kaz Meta, Sean Anderson, Lex, Abron. Who else did we have here? We had Rick, Stacks, a lot of people, Clement, Deldrian, Lavelle. So everyone that's tuning in to the show, really appreciate you all tuning in every Thursday. Big shout out to Beneficence, who's going to be joining next Thursday, and has a new album coming out. Also has a book coming out about his life, how he formed his record label. So we're super excited to chat with him next Thursday, same time, 10 p.m. Also, shout out to all those folks in Clubhouse that are joining us on Tuesdays for the Boom Bap Chat Clubhouse edition, Tuesdays at 10 p.m. Appreciate y'all being there. And last, but certainly not least, obviously, shout out to Shawn J Period. Shawn J Period, thank you for being here tonight, man.
Of course, man. Thank you.
Yeah, and we'll let you give the final words, the last words, any shout outs you want to give. Take it away.
Shout outs. Shout out you brothers, obviously. Brother MC Till. Profound, IOMOS, and my brother behind the
Neville behind the scenes.
Like as soon as we start going, he's like, I'm going behind the scenes. Kelsey, producer working B Conductors, Record Collective, Richmond, Virginia, my folks there, New York, my wife, daughters, just appreciate everybody, man. All High Tech, all the people I work with, L, Matt Fingers, just a bunch of folks, man. Just really appreciate this opportunity to spend time with you all. This has been great, man. Great, you all are great interviewers. I mean, make you feel comfortable, and you do ask some interesting questions. Stuff you get some of the same, right? But it's like the way you bring it out, man, is like it's real. It's just really good, and I like having multiple, not just one host, but Profound asking the questions, and IOMOS, so obviously we know each other. It's like, Profound, I feel like, we have to get to know each other now, man.
We will, yes, sir.
Feel free to IOMOS, give him my info,
sure.
just text me and stuff first, you know what I mean, and that way we could just build offline,
Okay, word up.
Yes, sir. Man. But thank you all too.
Yeah, no doubt. Thanks, man. And on that note, we say peace.
Profile, share them wings.